Hi everyone, welcome to the Skeins of Dreams knitting podcast. I'm Megha. I'm also known as Skeins of Dreams on Instagram and on Ravelry. This is my corner of YouTube where I talk about my knitting, my making, any other crafting that I indulge in. And thank you so much for joining. If you're new, I have a backlog of other episodes you could check out. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me again. Thank you so much for supporting me and leaving such lovely comments on my videos. I really appreciate you all, and it's been such a wonderful few months that I've started this journey, and I've made so many amazing new friends. I've learned so much, so many new things, and it's been so wonderful just interacting with everyone. I'm coming to you from my home in Buffalo, New York. I'm originally from India and I have been living in the US for about 9.5 years now. In August next year it'll be 10 years, so I've been away from home for a while. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I have a lot of knitting to talk about. You've been warned. It's a mammoth episode. I mean, if you've seen my previous episodes, you know I'm a crazy person. And the craziness gets extremely magnified before the holidays, of course. I have a lot going on. And I hope you'll enjoy the episode, but you know, you've been warned, so be ready. This is going to be a long one. If you're wondering why I'm sitting down on the floor, is we have a visitor. So Oreo's sleeping. He didn't want to be disturbed. I tried asking him nicely. He said no. So I let him sleep up there, and I think the lighting's better if I'm sitting on the ground anyway. But yep. Before we start, some of you who follow me on Instagram would have seen this mug. And so if you're a new viewer, I've been going to pottery classes, and this is my first handmade item, and I glazed it and I was able to bring it home yesterday. So I finished my first pottery item, which is of course a handmade mug with some knitting print on it. I'm so happy with this one. I love how it turned out. We actually made an error in the way we wanted to color it. I wanted the entire mug to be this olive mossy green color, but my instructor, she got too excited and she double dipped it in this wheat color, and we didn't know how triple dipping the mug in another color, like generally you single dip. By dips I mean you have a big bucket of glaze and you dip the clay item in that glaze, and the number of times you dip it makes a difference on what kind of color comes out. So we were supposed to dip it once in this color and then once in a different color to get this mossy green, but she dipped it twice in the wheat color. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try, let's see what happens. So I dipped the mug half in the fog gray that gave this mossy green, and I love how this looks. I'm so happy with this. I'm so happy that I have my first finished object. Pottery finished object, but still it's a finished object. I'm really glad that I joined the pottery classes, and I'm super excited, and I'll show you all the things as I make them, as I bring them home. Right now this is the only thing I have to show. I have another thing that I finished, but it's going as a Christmas present, and I don't want the cat to be out of the bag or whatever, so I don't want to show it. I'm not sure if the recipient watches, but she's way too smart, she'll figure it out. So I'm not gonna take any chances. Yeah, so I'm not showing my other pottery make, but This is my first finished object. Alright, let's get to the knitting content. So what am I wearing? Today I'm wearing a really old make. I don't remember when I made this. It's been at least, I want to say 2-3 years. So this is the Austra sweater. It is a design by Melody Hoffmann, who's B Mandarins on Instagram. And Melody has some very beautiful designs. And this was, I feel like this was one of her earlier designs. Not earlier, but like I think she's designed a lot more garments since this one, and her designs have become, like, you can see how, you know, designers grow as well. So this was one of the initial ones, and this is called the Austra. It has I forget what this stitch is called actually. I think linen stitch. This has a panel of the linen stitch on top, and then the rest of it is just plain at the bottom. And I'm actually going to put a video of me, like you can see how the sweater looks on me. It's a very sweatshirty kind of a sweater. I put this on a lot when I go to work. It's very simple, easy for me to wear, and I mean, it's black and gray, so you know, that's as neutral as it gets. I knit the sweater quite long, like the sleeves are quite long, and I love that about it. But when I'm working, I tend to fold the cuffs up so that it doesn't get in the way. But I used Brooklyn tweed shelter for this sweater, and this was before there was this whole thing about shelter not being a good yarn. People were complaining that the yarn breaks when they're knitting with it. I honestly didn't have an issue at all, and I knit this around that time or before that time. Like, I wasn't even aware that this whole debate about shelter was going on when I knit this sweater. The black is cast iron, I think, and I want to say the gray is snowbound, but I'm gonna put the details on the screen here. I really like this sweater. The only thing, and I didn't have any issues with yarn breakage or anything when I was knitting with it. In fact, I was a newbie sweater knitter when I knit this, and I mean, I didn't know, I mean, I had no knowledge. I mean, I didn't have as much information about yarns and kind of yarns and all of that as I have now. And I was just enamored by like the Brooklyn tweed line, and they had such amazing patterns and they had such amazing colors, and I really wanted to knit with their yarn, and so I bought it, and I test knitted this sweater actually for Melody. She, in her design, has at this like the separation between this stitch and the black at this, I don't know why I can't speak today again, but at this line she has some tassels or fringes. She has fringes that she put on the design, and I'll put a picture of the design here. But for me, this line actually just falls at my bust, and I didn't want fringes to like be just like sticking out of there. That would look really weird on me, I think. And I have a bigger bust, so I'm a heavier person, and I thought that the pattern or the design looked much nicer on smaller built people. But I didn't like the idea of fringes at my bust line. I feel like if this panel was at least to my natural waist or something, maybe I could have added the fringe. But I know during test knitting you're not really supposed to change the design. But after I finished the sweater and the tassels or the fringes were to be added at the end, I messaged Melody and I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't want to add the fringes to this. I can pay for the pattern because I'm not doing it to completion, but she was very sweet about it. Of course, she didn't mind me doing that at all, and I skipped adding the fringes, and I'm so happy about that because I wear this sweater a lot. It's one of my favorites. I would say that over time I feel like the shelter yarn, it's become kind of bubbly. It's not pilling. I don't think it pills. It's 100% wool, but it's definitely got some sort of this bubbly effect on it, which I don't mind it. It looks good when I wear it, you can tell, but so far it's worn fine. It has a 3 needle bind off over here, and some places wherever I felt that there were like holes appearing because the yarn can be a little bit thick and thin at times, I just like reinforced it once. But that was, I think it got snagged because I hang my sweaters on a hanger. Like, that's the worst thing you can do, but because I do that, I think I saw some gaps showing, and I just reinforced it with some scraps that were left. But other than that, the sweater has been amazing. I love wearing it. You can see that, you know, it bunches up over here. It's a drop shoulder design, and this was back when I really didn't know anything about sweater fitting. I didn't know how things look on me, but I think the drop shoulder always does this on me. Like, it always gets this bunching up over here because I have a bigger bust size, so when I put my arms down, the yarn tends to rest on my chest, so it always does that. Honestly, it doesn't really bother me now that I'm looking into the camera and I'm like constantly staring at it. I feel like I have to mention it when I'm wearing it to work. I don't care. And no one notices, and I don't notice it, and I'm very warm, very comfortable. I love this sweater, and I think that's all I have to say about it. Okay, let's talk about finished objects. If you've seen my previous episode, I was working on this pair of holiday socks for myself, and I had finished one pair. I had finished one sock and I was working on the other one, so I finished both. So here are my socks, and I have to still weave in the ends, but that's okay. This I knit with nomadic yarns. The base is called Brit Sock. I think it's 80% superwash merino and it's 80% blue face Leicester and 20% nylon. That's my favorite sock base. I really like the blue face Leicester nylon combination. I think they make for very sturdy socks, and I really love this pair. This is my holiday socks. The colorway is called Yuletide. I do a vanilla sock pattern. I have always only done vanilla socks, except for I'm gonna talk about a pair today that's going to be my first non-vanilla sock. I do a 3x1 rib usually, so knit 3 purl 1, and this gives the leg a very good fit. I continue the 3x1 purl on the top of my foot, and the bottom of my foot is just plain stockinette. So yeah, I think I finished it like the day before my last podcast. I haven't worn them because the deal with holiday socks is they're supposed to be worn during the holidays. So I haven't broken into them yet. I'm hanging on to them. I want to wear them with my holiday sweater and matching socks, so that will be nice. So that's my first finished object. My next finished object is a massive one. It's, I would say, 95% finished. It's not like completely finished, but I will count it as a knitting FO because I finished the knitting on it. All I have left to do is some sewing. So this is the zipper sweater man by petiteKnit. It is knit. I knit this in piece fleece worsted. The colorway is called Hemlock, and I finished the sweater I'm knitting for Mr. Skeins of Dreams. And this is supposed to be his holiday sweater. So as you can see here, I have pinned the zipper, but I haven't sewn it. I'm just waiting for the weekend. I want to hand sew it. The way the zipper is actually sewn is, and I'm gonna open it. I pinned it so nice I can just like zip it up and down, it's fine. So as if you can see here, this is the zipper placket. So you use 5 stitches just under the collar and knit a whole placket which runs down the length of the sweater. Actually, first, before I say that, the design only has a zipper midway, so it's almost like I don't know, is it a Henley? I don't think so, it's not a Henley. But like the zipper only runs down on the top and then at the bottom is just a regular pullover. But Baljit wanted a full zipper, so I made it almost like a jacket. So I knitted as a cardigan throughout and I wanted to put a full length zipper on it. So you knit this placket of like 5 stitches, sorry, my ends are everywhere. You knit this placket of 5 stitches throughout the length of the zipper, throughout the length of the sweater, and then I've sewn the placket to the back of the sweater over here. So this is where I've sewn it, hand sewn it with thread. I don't know if you can see, probably not. I used a good matching thread. So the placket is sewn to the back of the sweater. And then this creates a casing between the front and the back. So if you see, this is like a small pocket you've created because of the front and the back placket, and that's where you fit in your zip. And then I've pinned it completely throughout the sweater, so I can sew it, hand sew it. Now because it's a double layer of yarn of like wool with the zipper in the center, I don't want to machine sew it. Even with my walking foot, I think this is too thick, or maybe that's just because I'm kind of new to sewing and I don't want to break my machine. So I don't know if you can sew such thick layers through a sewing machine, but I think I'm gonna hand sew it just to be safe. And I think sometimes I like hand sewing. It's kind of peaceful. You sit and you're just doing the same repetitive action. I guess that's why we are knitters to begin with. But so I'm gonna hand sew it, and I plan to do it over the weekend. So I'm gonna do it tomorrow or day after. But I'm really happy with the sweater. It's almost done, and Baljit can wear it for the holidays. It's more a jacket like, so I'm expecting him to wear it as an outer layer maybe. He did try it on and he said something's poking me. The Peace Fleece worsted is a very rustic yarn. It's soft. I would say it's definitely soft, but it has a lot of like vegetable matter in it, I think, and I'm hoping that that goes away by blocking. So I haven't blocked this. I haven't wet blocked it yet. I'm going to finish the zipper and just do it at once. I don't want the yarn to stretch beyond a certain length once I block it. I'm actually considering, do I even need to block it? I mean, my stitches look pretty decent, so I'm thinking if I should just steam block it. It's anyway a thick outer layer, like do I need to wash it? But we'll see. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But yeah, so I finished the knitting on it, and I know when I showed it the last time, I don't remember if I had divided for the sleeves. Maybe I had, but I knit on it very monogamously so that I could finish it, and I really have a lot of works in progress, and you'll see in the next section. So I wanted this sweater done, and I had put a deadline on myself. I said, okay, by this date you have to finish this sweater, and by this date you have to finish this project. So I have like this agenda in my head, and I think I'm on track. So I finished the zipper sweater for Baljit, and I'm super happy about it. And I think he is too. Because he'd been asking me for a sweater for a while. Not like asking me directly, but every time I cast on a project, he'd be like, who is that for? And I would always say, me. So he would roll his eyes at me a little. So I think making him a holiday sweater was the right thing to do. So yeah, so I think those are all my finished objects, and warning you again, get ready for the WIP parade. By the way, this is the first time I'm drinking out of this mug, and I'm happy to report it does not leak. There are no holes. It works as a mug. Alright, let's start with my works in progress. They are a lot. I think we will go in order. The first thing I want to show is my holiday sweater. So I've been working on a holiday sweater for myself, and I've been showing it a little bit in the last couple episodes, I think. I'm working on the Ferie sweater by Susie Haumann. This is a Danish pattern. I'm knitting it from a book which is in Danish. I'm using Google Translate to translate it into English. It's a simple pattern. You just have to do a regular raglan and then start a color work chart. And color work chart, I mean, you don't need to know Danish for that. So, and I just have it on the one needles, so it's not like very evident. I mean the color work chart, because it's all bunched up, but I didn't put it on other needles. So this is the Ferie sweater, and as you can see, I have just about started my color work, and I'm very happy with this. There's fuzz in my mouth. I'm using Rowan Alpaca Classic for this. So this is 57% alpaca, 43% cotton yarn. It has a very beautiful halo on it. It's a very soft, it's one of those tube yarns with the alpaca blown into it. I really like how soft this is. I think this would be a good substitute for like mohair if you can't work with mohair or something. And I think because of the cotton content, it might be a little lightweight, but this is a DK weight yarn. I'm holding this yarn double for it. So this color on top is copper clay, and this gray is feather gray melange. And I actually didn't work on it all that much. It took me, like, I sat 2 days. I think I started working on it only this week, and I've already done some part of the color work. I'm really excited to work on it further. And yeah, so I was a little worried about how the color work would show. If you can see the it's done on US 10 needles, so it's kind of a big needle, but the gauge is supposed to be 15 stitches. But because I'm using this fuzzy yarn, it has gaps in it, like, you know, it's not as tight as color work is supposed to be. So I was worried if the color work will show nicely. And if you can see, I do have some copper clay peeking out from the feather gray, and I was wondering if that, you know, if I like it or not. But I honestly feel when I block it, I think the fuzz will like, it'll fill the gaps and everything. I'm just gonna go with it. If it's not, it's like a lesson learned. I really like the sweater, and I really want to make it in this yarn because I have this in stash and I want to use it, and this seemed like a really nice pattern for it. So I'm gonna go with it, and we'll see. And if I don't like the color work even after blocking, I may never do color work on such a loose gauge again. But I think using a fuzzy yarn for this was the right call, because the fuzz may still end up like filling all the gaps, and it might end up looking nice. From a distance, looks perfect. I mean, you can't tell that there's any problem. Maybe you can over here. Let's not look at that. But yeah, so this is my Ferie sweater. I want to be finished with it before, I think in 2 weeks at least. I'm thinking 2 weeks is actually a lot of time for this because this is just a top down. And it's on a very big needle, so if I work on it consistently, I think another 7 to 10 days I should be done. I'm being optimistic, but we'll see. So yeah, so that was WIP number 1. And then where do I start? I went a little test knit crazy. I think in a previous episode, I don't think the last one, I think the one before that, I talked about the Blizzard sweater, which is a design by Jessica McDonald. And Jessica, I mentioned before, she has some amazing design. She does very beautiful colorwork sweaters, cables, colorwork, texture, you name it, she has it. She has a lot of children's sweaters because she knits a lot for her kids, and then she has beautiful adult sweaters as well. So I was knitting the Skift, which is a sweater I made for my nephew, and then I saw that Jessica is working on an adult version for the Skift, and it's called the Blizzard, and she put out a test call, and of course I had to sign up for it immediately. And I think I showed some Briggs and Little yarn that I wanted to use for that, but when I swatched with the Briggs and Little, I didn't get gauge. I'm a little bit of a loose knitter, so sometimes if I don't get gauge, I try to go down the yarn like thickness itself. I've tried going down needle sizes before, but what happens is that my row gauge gets messed up with a smaller needle size, and then I have other issues like yardage not being the correct one because my row gauge is different. I need to knit more rows, and then I end up using a weird yardage as compared to what the designer has suggested. So anyway, I decided to change the yarn instead, and I'm using the Holst Super Soft 100% wool to knit the sweater. So I've just about started. I did the short rows at the back. This is the back, and then I've just started the color work. So I'm really pleased with my color choices. This is going to be my statement black and pink sweater. But I really like how this is looking. So this is Holst Super Soft, and the black or the charcoal gray is called Oxford, and this pink, purpley pink is Sweet Pea. I'm really happy with how the contrast is looking. Oops, I'm dropping stitches. Yep. So I've just about started. This test knit is due January 23rd, and because it's kind of out of the way, I really want, because Jessica gave a lot of time to knit this, I don't have any excuses that I can make. I have to work on this and I have to finish this. And as you can see, this I only have a little done, but I'm planning once I finish my holiday sweater. I'm not gonna say anything about when I'm going to knit what, because you will see I have so many things going on and everything needs to be done in 2 weeks. It's not gonna happen, but I don't like missing deadlines for test knits, so you bet I'm gonna work on this. And this is my progress on the Blizzard sweater, and I'm very, very excited to finish the sweater. I really like, of course, I like pink, and I do love the combination of black and pink, but this is the first time I'm actually knitting this combination, so I'm really excited. This looks so cute. Yep. So that's my Blizzard. And then, all the test knits. Sari Nordland, obviously, Sari. She has amazing designs, and every week she comes out with a new design. I don't know how she does it, but she has so many amazing test knit calls coming out very often. And I saw the test knit call for the Foxberry sweater, and I'm gonna put a picture of the sweater on the screen here. Sari knitted in this beautiful orange, and she suggested the knitting for olive fingering held with mohair silk. And I have knitting for olive. I had this yarn in stash, like I actually had exactly what she's asking for. And for my size, I usually, if I'm buying sweater quantity, I generally buy this, like, you know, enough yardage for it. So I had this yarn in stash. I think I was missing one skein. I think I was one skein short on the mohair or something. So I ended up just ordering that one skein to fill the gap. But I'm test knitting the Foxberry sweater, and I'm using knitting for olive in this beautiful wine colorway. The colorway name is Bordeaux. It's a very, very beautiful wine red, and suddenly I don't know why I'm like into reds. Different shades of reds, but I was always into reds, but I don't know, this is not red, this is more like plum, purple, red, burgundy. Okay, I've named so many colors now. Anyway, this is called Bordeaux. So I'm knitting the Foxberry sweater in this color, and I started only on the collar. This is a fold over twisted rib collar. I cast on and I'm working on it. I'm not gonna explain my WIP situation. I'm gonna get there. The test knit is due January 10th. But Sari has said she's okay with one sleeve and the yoke. So I think I'm gonna be able to do that. And once I'm done with my holiday sweater, you're gonna hear this a lot. Once I'm done with my holiday sweater, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how much I'm gonna sleep. Maybe I'll not sleep for 10 days, and then I'll be able to knit on everything. So that's the progress only. It's just the collar. I have to knit this collar for 4 inches because then I fold it over. But I think once I get on the knitting, it'll be faster. It's just that I take a little more time on ribbing, and my ribbing's usually not neat, but this is a twisted rib, like semi-twisted rib, like you twist the knits but not the pearls, and it's looking pretty nice. I really like how it's looking. So I've used the knitting for olive fingering and mohair before. I showed a cardigan that I have in the same combination, and I really like knitting with this combination of yarn, and I really like the knitting for olive solid colors. That particular cardigan I do wear a lot, but it's been giving me a lot of static issues in the winters. I mean, you won't wear all these sweaters and cardigans in the summer, so in the winter is when you're supposed to wear them, and I get all like very staticky with the shorter blouse I'm wearing underneath. But then it might also be because I wear some blouses of mine are like polyester, and they are like nylon polyester. They're not natural fibers, and I'm not liking that. I don't know if the staticky thing is happening because of the silk mohair or it's happening because of my polyester blouses. I'm inclined to think it's the polyester nylon content of my clothes. And usually I've bought those blouses mostly because you can put them in the washer dryer, don't have to iron them, you can just wear them. But now I'm not liking that aspect of those. So I'm thinking I'm going to sew myself some 100% cotton blouses. I have a few that I've sewn, and I'll talk about them. I don't get time to talk about other crafts that I do because I have so much knitting content. So I'm actually planning to record a special episode where I talk about other things, because the knitting episode becomes 1 hour long, and then there's no time. I mean, 1 hour is a lot of time for an episode, so I feel like I need a second parallel episode where I talk about my other crafts and everything I'm making on the side which is not knitting related. But I think I'm gonna do that because I have a few projects I really want to talk about. But anyway, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the static problem I think may be resolved if I have a few more natural fiber blouses or shirts under the sweaters I wear. Um, Sweaters like this, I don't have an issue. I'm not wearing a shirt underneath, and it's perfectly fine. The mohair ones, I don't know. I've never tried wearing them directly on my skin. Maybe I should. I mean, a cardigan, I can't do that. I have to wear something underneath. So I'm going to try make a few blouses that are cotton only. I used to wear so much. I mean, in India, you only wear 100% cotton most of the time. Like, that's what you wear. And it's so easy to just buy fabric, go to a tailor, get your stuff stitched, hand tailored for you. And that's normal in India. Like, that's what you do. But here, it doesn't, that's not the culture. Like, you go and you buy clothes. At least it seems like it's not the culture normally. For us makers, of course, we are all into hand making everything that we wear. And I've kind of become very conscious about that. I really want to hand make a lot of my garments. A, because I like doing it, I like making things from scratch, but also because I have a lot of size issues when you go to buy stuff in the stores. They want you to fit in like standardized sizes, which I don't like those. They make me feel a little upset about my size or my choices and everything, and I don't like that when I go to a store to buy clothes I come back very disappointed because something doesn't fit me right, and it's too expensive. And I know hand making is also expensive, but at least it fits me right, and I know that because I handmade it, I put all this effort in it, I'm gonna use it for a long time. It's not going to be a use and throw kind of a situation. So I want to go more towards hand making a lot of my clothes for the fit factor, definitely, and for just sustainability factor in the sense that I want to use those for a long time. Like, these sweaters are going to last me forever, basically, and that's what I want to do with the other clothes that I wear. So anyway, I went off on a tangent. I hope making some cotton blouses for myself will combat the static issue. We'll see. I don't know if it's the yarn, because it happens specifically with the cardigan that I made with this mohair silk combo. Doesn't happen with too many other sweaters that I have, the 100% wool ones. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know how that goes. I'll keep you posted. Okay. Did I talk about that enough? I think so. Next. I'm going to meet one of my best friends who lives in Texas for Christmas. She had a baby in October, and I'm really excited to meet my niece for all intents and purposes. So Baljeet and I are flying out to see the baby because my friend and her husband have organized like a cradle ceremony for the baby in around Christmas. And so, of course, I mean, what kind of an aunt am I if I go empty-handed, right? I'm of course going to take her some knits. Like, what do you expect? Other than knits, I decided back in the summer that when I go to see the baby, I have to go with a baby blanket. Now, I love making blankets, but because I knit like a crazy person, I never have time to make a knitted blanket. So I usually crochet blankets, and crochet is easier and faster, definitely, I feel, for blanket making. And I absolutely love doing crochet blankets. I'm not an advanced crochet. Is it crocheter or crocheter? Like, answer me this. I don't know the answer to this question. Anyway, I'm not too, my crochet skills are not too advanced, but I can make enough. I mean, I can work through simple blankets for sure. And I was always enamored by granny square blankets. Of course, they're like very classic, everybody makes granny square blankets, but I saw this pattern which is free on Pearl Soho's website, which is the Bear's rainbow blanket, and I'll put a picture. And of course the Pearl Soho one just looks amazing, like it's just brilliant. But I didn't want to use the yarn they've used. That would have made it crazy expensive, and I want my friend to be able to wash it and everything, so I used Knit Picks Comfy Worsted, which is a cotton and acrylic blend, and I bought I think 17 colors. And I'm talking all this and I'm not showing you because this is an epic make. Like, I have not finished it, it's a work in progress, but and the ends have not been woven in, but I'm making a massive granny square blanket with all the colors possible. I made 60 squares back in July, so I did like 2 squares a day. By that, I mean, in that manner, I started making it, and I had a target that I should knit crochet 2 squares a day. So I did that, and then my dear friend Rita, who I went to Rhinebeck with, she loves seaming apparently. Like, who loves seaming, right? She loves seaming stuff. So I actually took all my crochet squares to her house, and then we seamed them together. So like, we made these panels first of 6 colors, and then seamed the panels together. So I have 60 squares, so if I seamed 6 in one panel, there are 10 panels, and I'm seaming them together. So this one that I showed you, and I kind of, before I didn't see, the seaming is not being done randomly. I had laid it out. I think I'll put a picture. It's not a very nice picture because, I mean, I just took the picture for documentation purposes. I laid out all my colors in the way I wanted them, and I then took a picture to make sure that this is exactly how I'm going to seam all my squares together. So I'm following that, and it kind of goes in the rainbow sense, that it starts with the violets and then it goes towards the reds and pinks and everything. And I'll show the picture here. So this part that I was showing, this is one corner of it where it's starting with the violets, it's moving into the blues, and then there's the teals and the greens, and after that you're seeing the yellows and orange. And then I think then there's this, the greens, yellows and oranges are going into the pinks, and this is the other portion of it. So it's in 2 chunks right now, and this is the opposite corner with the bright pink. It's like a really bright pink, not showing up very well right now, but yeah. So this is one corner of it. So it's right now in multiple pieces, and I have to seam it together. But I was talking about my dear friend Rita, who loves seaming. So last Saturday, I took all my squares to her house. We put on some crappy Christmas movies on Lifetime and Netflix and whatever. We watched a lot of, I think we watched 4 Christmas movies. That's insane, but that's what we did. We put on a lot of crappy Christmas movies and we seamed these. And it was the best time I ever had. Like, I didn't even realize I was seaming a whole blanket. And she was like super quick with it, going, and I was kind of slower than she is. Because it's my first granny square blanket, my gauge was kind of off. Like, because I knit I crocheted all the squares over 2 months. The first square as compared to the last square, there's definitely difference in gauge. But overall, once you join them together, and then I'm going to do a nice border or edging with the white yarn, it's going to look very well put together. So I'm leaving on the 21st to go to my friend's house, and 21st is my deadline for finishing this, but I'm not left with a lot. Like, I just have to seam maybe 4 more long edges, and then I have to do the border, and then I have to sew all these ends in. So this is my really bucket list kind of a like item. I'm so happy with this. It like, I worked on it with a lot of love. My dear best friend and her husband and her baby hopefully will enjoy this blanket. I don't know if the baby will actually get it, or my or my friend will just keep this for herself, but I'm sure they'll be really happy with this. She actually knows I'm making this because I had a few blankets in mind when I started when I was trying to figure out what to make her for when I found out she's pregnant, and I wanted to make a blanket for her, and I sent her a few patterns to choose from because I really wanted her to like it as well. And she loves all the colors and everything, and she saw this bear's rainbow blanket and she was like, this is it, this is what I want. And she was asking me, isn't this a lot of work? Like, are you willing to put all of this work in for? I was like, don't even bother about it. I love it. I love the effort that goes in it. I love the time we spend on making all of these items. And I love the outcome. Like, these colors, like, if you don't know that already about me, I'm crazy for colors. Like, I just love it. And I just looking at these make me so happy. And I'm sure this blanket's going to look very good. And I'm going to be so happy. And then I'm going to be so happy to give it to her baby as well. So this is my major work in progress going on right now, and this actually also has a deadline which is coming up soon, but as I said, I have a major chunk of it done, and then I'm gonna seam it this weekend and work on finishing it, and my gift will be ready. Yep, so that's my granny square blanket. But can the blanket be the only thing I'm giving the baby? No, it cannot. She has a crochet item. She needs a knitted item. Well, I already had given, so I went to see this friend in May when she found out she was pregnant. I went to spend some time with her. Also, because of COVID and everything, I wasn't able to go anywhere, and it was just when travel had started back up, like in May. So I decided I'll go visit her and everything. So I took with me 2 knitted cardigans when I went to see her, and I'll put a picture. And I kind of gave them, they were kind of gender neutral colors, because when I went in May, that was around the time they were having the gender reveal ceremony, so we didn't know what the gender of the baby was. So I made like some gender neutral cardigans that I gifted. But now that I know it's a little girl, I'm making her a sweet frock. So actually this is the Mountain Mist pattern by tinCanKnits, and everyone knows tinCanKnits. It's a sweater pattern, but I think I'm going to hack it a little bit and make it almost like a tunic or a pinafore or a frock. Like, I'm just gonna do the top, the yoke. I have already started. Divide for the sleeves, and then instead of going straight down for the body, I'm gonna add increases and make it like a frock. And because they live in Texas, I don't think full sleeves is mandatory. So I'm just going to make it short sleeved. But this is what I've done so far. This is the Mountain Mist by tinCanKnits. I'm knitting the 0 to 6 month size because when I go there, the baby was born in October, so she's not even 3 months. So I want her to actually wear it. I know she'll grow out of it in no time, but I do want to see her wear it. So I'm knitting this in Malabrigo Rios, and I had some scraps really. So all of this is scrap yarn. This one, the color is peachy. The main color, Like I've just started on the main color. This is going to be the main color. This is called English Rose, and I really like Malabrigo Rios, just because their depth of color is amazing, and also it's indie dyed yarn almost, but at a cheaper price. I know it's more expensive than a lot of other commercial yarns that I could be buying, but I honestly had a lot of it in stash. And one thing that I like to do when I'm buying single skeins of yarn or something is I like to, and this I have to say with a grain of, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because I like to go to Ravelry and look at the stash, and people are often destashing on Ravelry, and you can go and see what people are willing to trade and sell, and you can buy it from them. And sometimes they sell it for a lot cheaper than the retail price, because they're just trying to get rid of stash, or they've bought it like 7-8 years ago and they've never used it, so they just want to get rid of it. A lot of people get rid of their stash for much cheaper, and I've often been able to buy yarn at a very good deal on Ravelry. The reason I said grain of salt is that accessibility issues with Ravelry. As much as I love using Ravelry, every time I use it I'm like, you know what, this is not accessible to everyone. But I'm one of the few, I guess I'm one of the privileged people who are still able to use Ravelry, and the benefits are definitely high of using Ravelry, so I do end up doing that. And like this skein of yarn, I didn't have this in stash, but someone was destashing, and it retails for like $15 usually, and I was able to get it for 10. And this happened, I have bought a lot of my yarn on Ravelry destashes actually. That's one of the first things I look at if I want to buy yarn. I go to Ravelry and I go see if people are selling similar colors, similar fibers and all of that. So I've used it quite a bit to do it. I've never had a bad experience. I mean, knitters are not people out to get you. So usually everyone's very nice. It's a smooth transaction. You can transfer money over PayPal, and PayPal is very secure and everything. So I've never had a bad experience. I've actually sold a bit of my yarn and destashed a bit of my yarn over Ravelry as well. Anytime I feel like I don't want to use this yarn for whatever reason, I don't feel it anymore, I don't like the color anymore, I've been able to go on Ravelry and destash it. So yeah, so that's how I ended up buying this one skein, and the rest of them I had in stash like already. So yep, I'm knitting the Mountain Mist for my niece. Is that all? No, it's not. I have some sock projects going on, and one of them is a gift knit for my friend, and we exchange gifts on Christmas. She's a very dear friend. She's the godmother to my cats. Every time I'm on a vacation, she kindly takes care of them, feeds them. They used to go over to her place. She would cat sit them that way when they were kittens, but now they've become bigger, and I don't like them going into other houses unless it's absolutely necessary. They're just more comfortable in their own house, so she comes and feeds them and everything. So she's a very good friend I have in Buffalo, and we exchange gifts for Christmas. And I know she'll be buying. She's a very good gift giver. She's very smart at it, and puts a lot of thought into it, packs them really, really beautifully. It looks like professional and everything. So she loves hand knit socks. I made her a pair of hand knit socks for the first time, I think, a couple years ago, and now every time any occasion comes, she likes hand knit socks. So I'm knitting these beautiful rainbow socks for her. This yarn is the Regia Perfect. I think this is a very good commercial sock yarn, and I think everyone knows about it. And Perfect is like line they have where you can get matching socks if you follow their instructions. So basically, where the yarn starts, you knit the cuff, and then you knit until that color appears again, and when that color appears, you knit the heel, and then you knit. And usually I think they have calculated it properly so that your heel fits in that single color, and then you start knitting the leg, and then you can actually depending on this length of your foot, it might happen that you might reach the blue, you might not reach the blue because your foot is short, or you may cross the blue because your foot is longer, but you can always cut the yarn if you're that conscious about it. But her foot is, I think, an average 8.5 US. I don't know what that is, and I think this total foot length is around 9.5 inches. So this lines up perfectly. So I got a blue toe, a blue heel, and a blue cuff. So that's perfect. So I'm knitting these socks for her. I've started the second one as well, and I'm knitting the second one. So in fact, actually, there is a division. The ball is a 100-gram ball, but they have a length of random scrap yellow yarn separating the 250 grams, so that you know where one sock ends and where the other begins. So I'm knitting this for my friend, and this is going to be a gift for her for Christmas. She actually knows she's getting these because she came shopping in my yarn stash. I asked her what she wants, and she said she wants a pair of socks, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna show you my stash, pick what you want. So I had this in stash, and she loves rainbow, so she picked it out, and I'm knitting this pair of socks for her. And by the way, this entire time Oreo's still there. Like, it's been a while. He's still sleeping. He was serious when he said, no, I'm not getting up. He still had a lot of siesta left. Anyway, so that's a sock project I'm working on. Then I have actually another test knit, which is a sock test knit, and this is kind of an important, and there's a story behind it. I have a friend who I became friends with on Instagram. Actually, I need a sip of tea. Talking so much today. I have a friend on Instagram, Jackie Pirota. She's a designer. She has very beautiful designs on Ravelry. She designs, I think she has a few shawls and a lot of socks. And Jackie reached out to me on Instagram, and she asked me if I was interested in test knitting a pair of socks for her. And there's a story behind her design, and I'm going to give a trigger warning here. It's not a happy story, but the socks kind of are a fundraiser that she is planning. So Jackie lives in LA, Los Angeles in the US, and in her neighborhood there was an unfortunate incident, a horrific incident actually. So trigger warning here. A little girl who was 7 years old, AMAIYA, she lost her life, and the people who were supposed to be responsible for her safekeeping and for protecting her were the ones that hurt her, and because of which she passed away. I'm not going to go into details because honestly, I don't think I am capable of talking through it without starting to cry or something. So, and also because it's a very triggering story, I'm going to put links in the description box so you can go check out the news articles about it. Basically, the the little girl lost her life, and it was very unfortunate that no one knew what was happening to her, what her caretakers were doing to her. And Jackie felt that, because she lives in the community and everything, she was very upset about this. She was definitely, she wanted to do something about it. So I think the local police department told her that Stuart House is an organization that caters and helps abuse victims. So they cater specifically to victims of abuse, children who are victims of abuse. And Jackie wants to do a fundraiser through this design that she is working on. And I think she's collaborating with the Forbidden Fiber Company, who's a yarn dyer. And I'm gonna link everything in the description box. So the Forbidden Fiber Company has dyed a colorway in honor of AMAIYA, who is the little girl in the story. And this is the colorway that Forbidden Fiber has dyed in her honor. This colorway name is Night Rain. I believe that is a direct translation of the word AMAIYA. And Jackie is designing socks to honor her, and also to whatever funds they collect from this yarn and from the pattern will be donated to Stuart House to help fund their organization. And it's a fundraiser for Stuart House to prevent such heinous crimes and to help victims, especially kids who are not able to advocate for themselves. So these are the beautiful socks Jackie has designed. These are called the AMAIYA socks. This is a very, very beautiful cable pattern. If you can, I hope I've done it justice. You can see the butterfly motif that's coming out of it. So there's a butterfly on both sides. So I think the butterfly is meant to be on the side of the sock, and then there's going to be a similar butterfly on the top of the leg. I've not done any other socks than vanilla socks before, so I'm definitely a little slower knitting these, and I'm really enjoying it. Of course, this Forbidden Fiber base has stellina on it, which actually makes it a little, I think it adds something special to it. The butterfly is very sparkly, so this is I'm really enjoying this pattern. It's a beautiful pattern, and I'm really glad that Jackie approached me and that I could in my own way become a part of this. So I'm not sure when the pattern is going to be released. I'm still test knitting it, and I think a few other people are test knitting it, and I'll definitely keep you updated about the release of the pattern, and so you can contribute if you're so inclined to. But I can speak highly of the pattern itself. The chart is really simple to follow, and Jackie has written a very nice, she's written it very nicely, so any beginner can also start working on these socks. Of course, it's a cable pattern, so for beginners that might be a little bit of a learning curve, but I think you have to start somewhere. And this is a very basic cable pattern. It's not too many stitches over. I think the maximum is 2 over, so it's a 2 over. There are 2 over 2 cables mostly, but I'm really enjoying knitting on these socks. I think it's looking really beautiful. I really like the yarn as well. I have never knit with stellina before, and this is the first time that I've used this base which has this stellina. That's what gives it the sparkle. But I really like the color, I really like the base, and I really love the pattern, and I really like the cause behind all of this. So yeah, that is my test knit for the AMAIYA socks. Jackie, I'm sorry if I have not mentioned everything that was supposed to. I'm not sure if I did justice to your intentions behind doing this, but hopefully I have, and I'm so happy that you've included me in this journey, and thank you. Okay, so that were all my works in progress. That is quite a lot. Like, I have a lot of knitting that needs to be done, and I actually have future plans, but for now I think I'm going to focus on my works in progress, because as you've seen, they're a lot. I don't have a stash acquisition section this time. I did buy yarn over Black Friday. That was the last purchase I made, but I don't think I'm going to share it specifically in this episode when I use the yarn, or maybe in the next episode I can show my stash acquisitions. I'm really seriously trying to not buy more yarn. So since Black Friday, I haven't purchased any except for a few skeins as gifts for Christmas for my friends, and not bought any for myself. But oh my god, my yarn swap box is on the way. So if you've been following my podcasts, and if you've been following Rebecca, who is Crea Bea on YouTube, we're both doing a yarn swap. I sent my yarn package to her, I think last week, and her mom received it today, I think, like yesterday or today. Today is, by the way, Friday, December 10th, I want to say. I think so. I think it's the 10th. Yes. So her mom received it today in Scotland. Rebecca is actually moving back to Scotland by Christmas time. She's in London right now, and she's moving back. So she asked me to send the package to her mom, so she won't be able to open it until the 21st when she gets there. But my box will be here next week, and I'm really excited because that will be one massive yarn acquisition for me. So I'm trying not to buy anymore because I really want to see what's in the box, of course. And a lot of you have already seen what I'm getting because Rebecca showed it on her podcast, like the yarn purchases that she did for me. But she did mention, or she texted me that she's showing the yarn on her episode, then I shouldn't watch it. So I watched her episode up until her yarn acquisition, or like where she starts talking about the yarn, and then I shut it off. Like I've been good. I have not cheated. I have not seen anything that she sent me, and whatever I've sent her is obviously a surprise to everyone because I didn't show anywhere what I sent her. I think I'm going to leave this to her because I had kind of a theme going in the way I've sent her the package, and I'm really excited for her to open it and go through it. And I didn't want to, show it beforehand or anything. So I'm gonna leave that up to her to show the yarn that I've sent her. But I'm so happy that my package has made it to the UK, and mine is on the way. We're tracking it. So that'll be the one big Christmas, New Year's, or a holiday gift to ourselves and to each other, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so other than that, I have another week of work left, and then I'm going to be on vacation. And first, as I mentioned before, I'm going to visit my friend in Dallas, and then we'll come back, and then it's just a week of being home, just hanging out, doing nothing. Not doing nothing. I have a lot of deadlines, as you have already seen. so I'm definitely going to be a knitting machine over the holidays, but that's exactly how I want to spend my holidays. And like I did mention before, I think I'm going to record a few segments of talking about other crafts. I really have some quilting plans, very serious quilting plans, and I would like to. I have had a few questions about a quilt that I usually have on my couch here, and I want to talk about my quilts that I've already finished and a couple of quilts that I have planned, and I'm working on. So there's a lot to share, and usually this knitting takes up the all time in my life. It takes up time on my channel. So I think I need a special episode of its own to just talk about other crafts. But actually today you got to see a bit of my crochet, so I'm really happy that I was able to share that. Another thing I wanted to mention before I go is a lot of you have been asking me a lot of questions through YouTube comments or Instagram messages and everything, and I'm really liking all the suggestions I'm getting. But I think I will do a special episode also to address all these questions. I think I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything kind of a session. I'm trying to think if one session answering all the questions is good, or should I do this thing where I pick one question every episode, and at the beginning of the episode, like, I address that one question. For example, a lot of people have asked me about my first sweater or my sweater journey. Some of you have asked me about how I fit my raglans or sweaters to myself, and how I do the calculations and things like that. So I want to get into answering all of these, and I'm trying to decide what's the best format. Should I do them all at once, like collect 10-15 questions, do a really long episode? But I think I don't like to watch usually those long Ask Me Anything kind of episodes, because I mean, they can be good, they can get too long sometimes. So I feel like maybe if I do add a segment to each episode where I'm like, okay, this is the question of the episode or something, question of the week, and then I address that one. So maybe is that more easy to do and will keep things compact. I'm not sure, I'm thinking about it, so be assured that I'm thinking about it. I have all the questions, I've documented everything, I've not forgotten about it. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to actually talk about all the things that have been asked. So please be patient, stay tuned. I'm going to figure something out, and I will definitely answer everything that has been asked so far. So if you have any suggestions, whether you'd like to see one big episode, or would you rather do it the way I'm inclined to do, is to one question every time I record, I can answer one question. Maybe I can do that. Like, let me know what you think, if one format is better than the other. And yeah, so I did want to add this before I sign off today. I kept thinking about it, but yeah. So I hope all of you have a wonderful holiday season. I know there's a lot of content right now with the Vlogmas and everything. I completely indulge in everyone's Vlogmas episodes as well. I hope all of you are watching all of that and planning or gearing up for the holiday season. I know there's a lot of gift knitting going on, a lot of gifts planned, a lot of work, as in like baking and cooking and all of that. So last week I actually baked 7 dozen cookies. I gave some to my neighbors, I took some to my work to share with my colleagues, and then there's some at home, mostly for Mr. Skeins of Dreams. He loves butter pecan cookies, so I bake them pretty frequently. So he asked for those, and I made those for him. So yeah, so I hope you're all having a very good prep time for the holidays, and I think I will record around New Year's next, and in between you may or may not see a quilting episode. I hopefully will be able to record sometime this weekend to put out a quilting episode as well. But I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Happy holidays. Hope you have a wonderful break, vacation, whatever you're doing with your families. Please stay safe. We know this whole pandemic is just stretching itself beyond measure. Stay safe, happy crafting, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye.